All right. Hello, everyone. Um, let's also with the introduction of myself, if this is working. That was too far. Okay, that's me. Um, and thanks, Andre, for building the bridge. He said it's a people business. I talk about the challenge of continuous learning and why continuous learning is actually important to also tackle AI. I, like every single one of you, hold different roles in my life. The one role I'm holding here on stage is CTO of Mobile.de, the #1 automotive marketplace in Germany. I'm holding a couple of other roles. I'm a father, husband, avid runner, so marathoner, did an Ironman, these kind of things. I love to take photos. I love to listen to audiobooks, continuous learning while running. That's the first trick. And I'm here on stage because I believe in people and I believe in a growth mindset. So let's talk about continuous learning and why this actually matters. And we heard Andre talking about all the challenges that come to all the companies we work for and to every single one of you. And this is not a threat, but also an opportunity. Because we need to learn new skills. And every single person in our team needs to learn new skills. Maybe not every day, but every week, every month. And there are a couple of reasons why continuous learning is actually pretty important. And there are scientific reasons. Some of them are here on the slide. Learning or the path for development is cited as the #1 reason people leave teams and companies. It's the #1 reason that can drive engagement or active disengagement towards a company. And then there are also economic reasons why this is important, because there's a correlation between engaged teams and company success and the outcomes a company can produce. And then, because we are all humans, there are also human reasons why continuous learning is actually important. And by the raise of your hands, I will ask a couple of questions and you think about, like, did I actually know this situation? First one, have you ever dared holding a development conversation with one of your directs or with your manager? Okay, the majority, that's good. Think about this one person who is actually not too eager or don't want to be bothered with these kind of formal development processes. Do you know this one person? All right. And do you know the situation when one of your directs asks you for a development conversation, but it turns out it's actually a promotion pitch? All right, so we are all in the same boat. That's great. This is why continuous learning and development is so important and so hard to do. And we in Mobile, and I see colleagues here and I see former colleagues here, we face the exact same challenge the whole industry is facing. And we thought we were clever and we invented a couple of things. We started with, okay, let's define the role. So we have role canvases in place. It turned out it didn't solve the problem. We created a leveling framework with detailed skills for each and every level, for a software engineer, senior engineer, agile coach, and so on. Did it do the trick? No. It actually increased the number of conversations you had that were pointed towards, can I now get a promotion because I tick all the boxes? Not what we wanted. Because we saw in surveys that do I have like enough room and enough opportunity and the right feedback to develop in my career? That was the question we wanted to improve on. And all of that didn't help. So we sat down again and started from scratch. I don't know where I need to point. Maybe here? didn't work. So we created something we call skill cards. Skill cards, more or less a game, can be played with physical cards, so we actually produced them, but can also be done in virtual hybrid teams on a Miro board. I want to share the concept with you because it addresses some of the challenges I pointed out in the beginning. I want to introduce Bob and Sue to you. So Bob is a principal engineer, newly promoted, pretty stoked about this new role. And Sue is his manager, head of platform. And they want to have this development conversation, like what does Bob need to do? Or how can Bob actually develop in the role? And skill cards is a set of cards, can be extended. We started with these kind of disciplines, so there are a couple of shared skills, people leader skills, data, marketing, engineering, UX, and so on and so on. And each of the cards shows a skill. And the manager, as well as the direct, sits down and sorts through the card. And the first exercise is build your own deck. Because not all the cards are relevant for your role, but significant amount of cards will be. So you align with your manager first, and there's the bright side. This is for the direct, and there's the dark side for the manager on these cards. And you agree on the subset of the cards that are actually relevant for you. And then you meet. And you have a playing field, which is 3 boxes. It's non-focus, it's good enough, or to improve. As you can tell by now, the to improve box will be the most important one. And Bob starts actually putting the cards from the subgroup of cards that are actually relevant for his role. And for simplicity reasons, it's only a couple of cards. Usually it's 30, 40 cards you use in those boxes, where he believes it's not in focus too much for this year or for whatever time period you play this game. It's good enough, so he's confident that his skills currently are fit for the role, and there are things to improve. Sue's doing the same, as I said, the dark side of it. So exact same skills, cards, but Sue's opinion on that. Doing the exact same exercise, putting it all in those boxes. And now the magic happens. They put it on top of each other, where there are matches, and what you see instantly is where there are no matches, meaning Sue has a different opinion than Bob. That can have multiple reasons. And the fun thing is, we tested a lot how detailed these skills you can see on the cards need to be. Because one card, for example, is called communication. And communication can mean a lot of things. It can be being on stage, doing public talking. And this was to improve for me for quite some time. And it could also mean written communication, communication within a team, communication with stakeholders, and so on. What we figured out through different iterations of this game is we don't need to be that specific. Communication is fine, because you will recognize it here. If one person puts communication in one box, the other person in another box, you will talk about what do you mean. And this is more helpful than having 1,300 cards to sort through. What happens then? You look at apparent alignment, talk through these kind of things to make sure you understand the same things. And you can ask some questions. What made you place this card here? What does it mean to you? And what aspect of the skill is actually relevant to nail it down a little bit more in detail? And then Bob and Sue entering the phase of talking about the things that are not matching up. And in this example, it's basically 3 skills. For simplicity reason and because of time, I boil it down to 1. So the skill is coaching, mentoring, development. And when Bob sorted through his cards, he said, okay, I'm not a people leader. As a principal engineer, I may advise more junior colleagues. I work with different stakeholders, but I'm not a people leader, so this is not in focus for me. Sue has a different opinion. She thinks, like, still you're a leader. Like, you're on a functional leadership path. Actually, a principal engineer is someone who's functional leading also engineers. So she put it in to improve because this is a skill Bob hadn't built up before. And you can talk through these kind of differences and align on where this card in the end lands. So there is an agreement part to it. So all the cards from direct and manager will land in one aligned bucket in the end. Final picture, they agreed on all of that. And what's important to focus on then is the to improve bucket. You can use it also in feedback conversations, but the to improve bucket is essential for also setting personal development goals and milestones. So for those items in the to improve bucket, and we think 3 to 5 items should be like the WIP limit for that, you actually discuss, okay, and if you do it well, what will be the impact to your role, to your career, and also to the business? And finally, you go to the last step of it, sitting down saying, okay, secure code, what's a smart goal for that? How do you know you developed? So it should be specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and timed. Usually goals are timed by the workday systems we're using, so that you don't need to worry about too much. So you sit down and write down the goals, define check-ins, and you can do this for goal setting. As I said, you can do it for feedback, and you can also do it for check-ins. What we experienced over time is preparing the session, like aligning on the card deck, takes 15 minutes maybe. The actual session for the game takes a little bit more time. So 1 to 1.5 hours is usually what it takes. And coming back to the questions I asked in the beginning, why do we think that Skillcast is, at least to a certain extent, helped us solve or heal some of the things? The first thing, it goes beyond standard role definitions. Of course, there's a canvas for a principal engineer, and this is still intact. We use it also to calibrate peers. But we also recognize that there are specifics for a principal engineer role in a certain part of the organization with a certain mission, and skill cards can actually cater for that. So if there are specific skills, you can bake them in, even though they are coming from marketing, from UX, or somewhere else. The second aspect is it creates alignment through a game, which is kind of a gamified version of a development talk. And you can use it for setting goals, for giving feedback, because the different views will become pretty apparent on a Mario board, or also with using physical cards on a desk. The third one is, I asked about like this one single person who's not up for these kind of talks. And and also if you dared having these conversations. And sometimes structure helps. Sometimes gamification helps. And skill cards can do that. So when we tested skill cards, and this was like a printed out version, pretty messy, I thought about like, who's this one person? Let's test it with this person. And if he agrees that this was actually an enjoyable thing to do, then we kind of crossed the threshold. And it worked. So it gives structure, and also in a more playful way actually can help build this relationship. It doesn't look too formal like a workday process you just have to deal with. So it's a really helpful tool to also overcome this challenge. And by the way, it also helps if you get a new direct in your team or step into a new role to actually play that game to get to know the person better. And the last one, you can play it for the current role, or if this person comes to you and it's a promotion pitch, you can also play it for the to-be role or the aspired role to also discuss, like, is there still a gap? Is there a difference in the self-view and the view of the manager? So also there, it's a helpful tool to help reflecting on. And the best of it, we actually managed to do it open source. This QR code will bring you to Miroverse. It's basically the Miro template store. So you can actually just get there, copy a board for you. You can find all the instructions, all the cards in there. We also included wild cards because we know there are disciplines missing. You can actually extend it to the whole company if you want. And you can give it a try yourself. I know it's September, so end of year feedback season starts. Maybe this makes sense, or beginning of the year for goal setting. I can highly recommend that. So give it a try, and thanks for having me. And I think we still have 1 or 2 minutes for questions.
I think that was the most scanned QR code so far. So top question, just pipping one that was there. How do you address intrinsic motivation apart from skills?
Yeah, skill cards is not the answer for everything. That's the ugly truth. I think there's, in terms of, is someone able to fulfill the role to an extent where you say, like, good performance, and Anne talked about high-performing teams. And there's skill and will. Skill cards is focused on skill, not on will. That's a different dimension. We all know you can have all the skills in the world. If you're not willing to do the job, it will turn out bad. So unfortunately, it does not address this element.
And the next question, like, how did you decide on what the cards were, and what was the process to get to those set of cards?
It was a long one. So we actually started sitting down with like functional representatives like software engineering, UX design, UX research, and so on, and said, like, write down all the skills you think that are relevant for your job type. And it was a pretty long list. As I said, like, communication was broken down into, I don't know, 12 pieces and so on. And back then, we couldn't just ask ChatGPT because this is a little bit older. The process would have been much shorter, I guess. And then we kind of did a little bit of an alignment session with all the people managers in Mobile and tried to figure out, like, what's a good set to start with. And then through different iterations, we actually boiled it down because also we realized that the more detail it has, it doesn't make the card any better. So I think it took us 4 or 5 iterations before ending up with the cards we have now.
So a question on role definition. How do you ensure people are paid equally for the same work if there is no standard role definition anymore?
There's standard role definitions. That's one. We still have a leveling framework. We have a role canvas. So this is an addition to what we have and also helping structuring the conversations. But we did not move away completely from these kind of things.
Okay, we've still got time for a couple more, I think. Next one. So the game is great, but how does it actually address the problem of focusing on learning instead of responding to a promotion pitch?
Yeah. So the promotion pitch you will still get in some ways. I think it's then less about there's the standard definition of a role, and I tick all the boxes, so here we go. I want to have a promotion. If you're pretty clear on there's additional elements to it, then this can give this conversation a little bit of a different edge. The second piece about promotion, and I think this also goes beyond skill cards. We talked about skill and will. That's definitely one piece, because skill alone will not get you promoted. The other piece is is there organizational need for the role on next level? Also not addressed on skill cards. I think these two parts of the conversation you still need to have. Like, if there would not be this part of organizational need, I'm pretty sure if you're like this one CTO of your company, you wouldn't be alone in this role for much longer, because there may be 26 other people who would be eager to also be CTO of your company. But actually it doesn't make economic sense to have that, and there's no organizational need to have that. So that's, I think, something that needs to be considered in this question.
And so how do you deal with someone who considers they don't have anything to improve and should get a promotion as soon as possible?
I think I partly answered that. Yeah. In this game, if manager and direct ends up having no idea where there's still room for improvement, then I think maybe there's some valid reason to think a promotion should be in the foreseeable future. Apart from that, there's always something to improve, sure, no matter how good you are, because all the things around us change so fast. Andre talked about it, others will talk about it today. Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you for that really insightful talk.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's really good.